talk a lot these days about showing up as your best self. So since my story begins at age 17, I thought, why not show up as my best self from 1986? So yes, this is me in my actual prom dress. Thank you. I still love this dress just as much 30 years later as I did that night. And I still fit into it, so hey, that's a bonus. But what I have to tell you is the absolute best thing about this dress, that wearing it was the only time during any of the dances I attended from grade 8 right through to grade 12, and I did not miss a dance, so probably about 20 dances, that during the last song, Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, 8 minutes and 2 seconds, that I did not have to feel or deal with my date's awkward boner. Too much material here. Anyways, thank you. I was a little worried about that. As I was preparing my talk for this evening, I realized that I don't have a story. I have hundreds of stories that have helped define and mold me into the woman that I've become and the woman that I'm continuing to grow into. What I did notice that there were common threads and themes that have followed me, and that's what I'm going to share with you this evening. Beginning with taking the road less traveled. My parents would tell you that I have always taken the road less traveled. From a very early age, I was very independent. I was a leader, not a follower. I've always walked my own walk, danced to the beat of my own drum, and always just been off the beaten path just that little bit. Not so much that I've been considered an outcast, but I've just been unique. I have my own flair, and I do my own thing. By the time I hit high school, in grade 9, when everybody else was going to see Bruce Springsteen, the Boss, I went to see Boy George in Culture Club. When everybody else was shopping at Beaver Canoe, I was shopping at Le Chateau. So it really should not have been a big shock that 3 weeks before I put on this beautiful gown, that I really made my first big step into taking the road less traveled, which for me was attending hairdressing school. My whole entire high school was preparing me for university. That's where everybody else I knew was going. That's what I'd prepared for. I had the university courses, I had the grades, the tenacity. It was what was expected of me and what I expected really of myself, but it's not where my heart was. Now, going to hairdressing school in 1986, you did that with only a grade 10 education. And there was a stigma around becoming a hairdresser that you went to beauty school if you weren't smart enough to do anything else. So regardless of that, I stepped in and went to hairdressing school anyways. About a year and a half later, I met a young, handsome private in the Canadian Armed Forces. We fell in love, we got married. 3 months later, I woke up on a cold Sunday morning in January, alone, with a shock. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm late, I'm pregnant. And at the same time, my husband was stepping aboard a ship in the Halifax harbor, heading to the Gulf War in 1991. I had absolutely no idea what military life or my life as a military wife was going to involve. I wasn't prepared for this. But that was just the beginning. I've since then gone on to become an entrepreneur, and every little thing I've done along the way, like Jackie just said, I belong to a tug-of-war team. I mean, who else in this room belongs to a tug-of-war team? I've always seemed to take the road less traveled, but what I know for me is taking the road less traveled has not been a whim. It has been a yearning, a pulling from my heart of where I need to be. I also know that the road less traveled is not crowded. And it can get lonely. But every time I have walked and taken a step into my path, I find the tribe, my tribe, the people that are there to nurture, support, and love me along the way, and I them. I also know that the road less traveled has brought me so many cool, unique people, experiences, variety and versatility into my life that I would not have had taking the common path. And for that, I'm grateful. It's been a great adventure. Feeling the fear and doing it anyways. Well, I think that that has become my life motto. Outside of what I just talked about, if we fast forward 30 years really, in this last year, outside of death and divorce, my entire life has changed. I hung up my hairdressing scissors after 28 years. I sold a day spa that I'd owned for 8 that was very well established and successful, and I launched myself at age 46 into a whole new career. I've also moved towns, and so I went from one town that I very much liked into another without knowing a soul. So almost every single day I have stepped into some crazy thing that I don't know anything about. But what I know for sure is that action cures fear. And I am the kind of woman that at the end of my day, I want to have as few regrets as humanly possible. So I step into it. And it's not always pretty. But at least at the end of my days, I know that I'm going to have a life that has been fulfilled because I walk into that as much as possible. Now, are there fears I still haven't stepped into? Absolutely. I'm just like everybody else in this room. You know, maybe somebody has a fear of ziplining, or somebody else has a fear of, you know, changing their life like I did at 46. Maybe you're scared of telling somebody you love them. Or maybe you're scared of telling somebody you no longer love them. All I know for me is that taking action cures that fear, and I know what's on the other side. Now, I'm going to finish with, I'm going to tell you it's probably the biggest lesson or struggle that I've carried with me throughout my entire life, and that is never underestimating the power of who I am right here, right now, today. I can't tell you how much time I have wasted undervaluing who I am as a person because I didn't have a university education. I was the one that held on to that stigma my entire life. I worked extra hard to prove to myself that I was worthy, that I was enough, that I was smart enough. And what I came to realize is nobody cares. Nobody gives a flying squirrel how many letters I have behind my name, what kind of car I drive, how much money I make, how much I weigh. There's no value in that. Where the value is just in me being unapologetically myself. Like, really, what you see is what you get. There is very little mystery in this gal, and that's where my value lies. The value lies in me taking the road less traveled, in me feeling the fear and doing it anyways. Like, I am ready for adventure at every turn. I live with an open heart and open mind, and I give really good hugs. I dance literally like nobody is watching, and I snort sometimes when I get laughing really hard. But this is where there's value, and I spent many years beating myself up for not having that university education. And you know what, tonight, even when I leave the stage and I don't have far to go to my front table, I know for sure there's going to be a few things in my head going, Victoria, you forgot this, 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 and this. But that's okay, because if one person in this room related to who I am and my story, then that's great. And if there's nobody in this room that related to me, well, heck, I stepped into another fear and I have survived. So I'm just going to leave you with never underestimate the power of you being you. The world needs each of us for who we are right here, right now, today. Thank you.